and welcome to our course on drone surveying. In today's lecture, we are going to focus on the regulations to fly drones. So, you may have seen these newspaper reports or similar newspaper reports before. For example, several people booked for flying drones in Shivaji Park despite ban, YouTuber arrested for flying drone near Tirumala temple, two arrested for flying drone in a no-fly zone in Chennai, or filmmaker arrested for flying drone near Prime Minister's residence. So these incidences, they highlight safety, security and privacy issues. So clearly there are certain regulations which should be followed while flying drones. In this course, so far we have discussed technical, practical and economical aspects of drone surveys. But apart from surveys, drones are also being used for various purposes such as commercial applications in photography and videography, healthcare and e-commerce deliveries. Drones are also being used in defense such as for surveillance and as loitering munitions. And it is expected that as drone costs decrease and new sensors and novel applications emerge, drone usage will see a tremendous growth. Thus, we need a framework for drone operations to ensure public safety by preventing collisions, to protect national security by controlling access to sensitive areas, and to safeguard privacy by managing surveillance through standardization of drone operation. And these can be achieved through drone regulations and learning about them. Regulations provide a legal framework for drone operation covering aspects like registration, pilot certification, and flight restriction, which help manage the growing use of this technology responsibly. So, let's discuss some specific needs for drone regulations. So, first of all, we have aviation and airspace safety. So, shared airspace, for example, that near airports or airfields, can pose collision risk with aircraft. Regulations help partition airspace into safe zone and establish rules for altitudes and flight path. Then regarding public safety, rules regarding maximum flight altitudes, for example, typically it is 400 feet or 120 meters, or rules regarding visual line of sight requirement and restrictions on flying over crowded or public gatherings help protect people and property from accident or negligent operation. Then, regarding national security, unregulated drones can be used for illicit activities or they can be used for critical infrastructure surveillance, for example, surveillance over power plant or military installation. Or unregulated drones can also be used for smuggling contraband items, for example, drugs or weapons for potential terrorist attacks. So, regulations help authorities in tracking and managing drone operations near sensitive areas and international borders. Then, regarding privacy, when drones have high definition cameras mounted on them, they can capture images and sound from private properties, which can cause unauthorized surveillance and data collection. Then, regulations require operators to respect privacy laws and take consent appropriately. Also, drone operators must be accountable for their actions. Drone registration and unique identification number UIN act like a digital license plate, which allows authorities to identify the owner and take action in case of violation. Also, if we have regulation, that will lead to standardization. For example, regulations will facilitate development of a structured drone industry by setting standards for manufacturing through type certification, setting standards for pilot training, setting standards for certification, and therefore ensuring a minimum level of competence and safety awareness among the operators. The use of unmanned aerial vehicles or drones is generally regulated by Civil Aviation Authority of each country. The International Civil Aviation Organization ICAO began exploring the use of drone technology in 2005, which resulted in a report in 2011. Then Ireland was the first country to set a national framework. For our subsequent discussion, we will focus on the drone regulations in India. In India, the drone regulations for flying are governed under the Drone Rules of 2021, and these were notified through the Gazette of India, which is the official public weekly journal of the Government of India that carries statutory orders, notifications, and announcement. The Drone Rules of 2021 govern all drone operations in India as notified by the Ministry of Civil Aviation. The Directorate General of Civil Aviation DGCA provides regulations and official notifications. DGCA uses the Digital Sky platform for drone related updates. Before we move into studying the drone regulations in India, it's also a good idea to understand the history of drone regulation. So India's drone regulation have evolved from a complete ban in 2014 to a progressive framework under the drone rules of 2021, marked by the launch of Digital Sky platform, phased licensing reforms, and liberalized export and import policies by 2023. So in 2014, there was a blanket ban on the use of civil drones. Then draft rules were published in 2016 and 2017. In 2018, the Digital Sky platform was launched along with no permission, no takeoff framework. Then in 2020, non compliant drones were listed, and in August 2021, drone rules of 2021 were published. In February 2022, import of foreign drones was banned, and in June 2023, policy for export of drones was liberalized. So, drone rules of 2021 mainly talk about the drones, which are unmanned aircraft systems or UAS. So, these drones operating in India, they talk about the individual and organizations piloting and owning the drones. They talk about operation of drones, and they talk about research and development of drones. And these rules are not applicable to drones weighing over 500 kilograms because such large and heavy drones, they are governed by the aircraft rules of 1937. And also these rules are not applicable to defense forces, for example, Army, Navy and Air Force. And the authoritative source for pilots to check the real-time interactive airspace map is the DGCA's Digital Sky platform. So, Digital Sky Platform is an online platform hosted by the DGCA, Directorate General of Civil Aviation, for activities related to the management of unmanned aircraft system in India. And this is how the landing page of Digital Sky Platform looks like. And the Digital Sky Platform provides updates about which are the no-fly zone, which are the flying zone, and we'll learn about them later. The Digital Sky Platform also has several certificates, for example, getting a type certificate for the drone model, getting the unique identification number for your particular drone. Then if someone is selling the drone, then transfer of the unmanned aircraft system needs to be taken place. Then it also provides forms for that. It provides forms for remote pilot certificate and also provides form for authorization of remote pilot training organization. And it also provides a framework for creating the flight plan, and several other information are updated on a daily basis on the Digital Sky platform. So there are 5 main classes as specified in the drone rules, and these classes are based on the maximum all-up weight including the payload. So first class is the nano class, which comprises of drones up to 250 gram. Then bigger than nano, but drones up to 2 kilogram fall under the micro class. Then bigger than the micro class and drones up to the weight of 25 kilogram fall under the small class. Then bigger than small and weight up to 150 kilogram fall under the medium class, and bigger than medium and up to 500 kilogram fall under the class of large class drones. These drones are also categorized by their structure and operation mode. So there are 3 main categories of the drone. There are aeroplane drones, which are fixed wing drones and where the lift is generated by the forward motion. There are rotorcraft drones, which are multi-rotor or single rotor type drones which use propellers for lift. And there are hybrid type drones, which are capable of both vertical liftoff and landing as well as horizontal flight. And these drones are subcategorized based on the operation mode. So there are remotely piloted aircraft system RPAS. There are model RPAS which are used for education, testing or recreation purposes. And then there are autonomous drones or autonomous UAS which use a pre-programmed flight and they have limited manual control. For example, we studied about flight planning, then it falls under autonomous UAS. Then drone models which are intended for commercial use, they should have type certificate. So type certificate is an official DGC approval confirming that the specific drone model meets certification standards of safety, design, technology and components. And under the drone rules of 2021, type certificate is mandatory for any manufacturer who intends to sell lease, or otherwise market their drone for operations in India. And the exceptions to type certificate is the nano class drone, which weigh up to 250 gram, and the model remotely pilot drones, which are built for non-commercial and recreational purposes. So, for example, if you are a manufacturer and you want to get type certificate for the model that you have manufactured, then there are 4 steps that you have to follow. First, submit a Form D1 on the Digital Sky platform, then physically hand over the prototype to a testing agency. Then the testing agency will test the drone and submit its report to DGCA within 60 days. And then, based on the report, DGCA will issue the certificate within 15 days. So, this is the process of getting type certificate for your drone model. Then, as a user, we also need to register our drone and get a unique identification number for the drone. So, every drone except certain exempted types must be registered and receive a unique identification number. And any transfer, sale, or deregistration of drone that takes place, that should be updated digitally on this platform within 7 days. And exemptions for the registration are the nano class and model drones for non-commercial use. So the process of registering has 4 steps. First, we have to fill out the form D2 on the Digital Sky platform, then provide the drone information and the valid type certificate number, then pay a fees of 100 rupees, and then the Digital Sky platform will verify the details and automatically generate a UIN. So we can also see that this Digital Sky platform acts as a single window for most of our engagement and most of the regulations with regard to drone survey or drone flying. Then regarding drones, we have to also consider the import ban on foreign drones. As per Directorate General of Foreign Trade notification of 2022, import of drones is prohibited in completely built unit CBU, completely knocked down CKD, or semi knocked down SKD form. But this ban does not apply to drones which are imported for research and development, for defense and security purpose. It will still require specific government authorization. Furthermore, the import of drone components is unrestricted. So this will encourage local assembly as well as value addition within India. Then with regards to the drone operator, the operator must have a remote pilot license, and it is mandatory for micro in case a micro class drone is being used for commercial purposes. It is mandatory for small, medium and large drone as well. And to obtain a remote pilot license, training must be performed at an authorized remote pilot training organization or a RPTO. And the drone pilot must be of age within 18 to 65 years. The minimum education qualification for a drone pilot or the drone operator, he or she should be passed out of class 10th. And the license which is so received is valid for 10 years, which is renewable through Digital Sky. And only a remote pilot license holder can operate a drone. So there are 4 steps in getting a remote pilot license. First step is to complete training and testing at an authorized RPTO, which is authorized remote pilot training organization. Then the RPTO will apply on your behalf using the form D4 on the Digital Sky platform. Then based on the application, a remote pilot certificate is issued digitally, and the DGCA issues the official 10-year license within 15 days. Then with regards to the drone operation, DGCA has notified airspace zones in India, and there are 3 zones which are classified in India. There is red zone, there is yellow zone, and there is green zone. So red zone, any kind of drone operation is prohibited. If you want to do any drone operation, then approval from the central government needs to take place first. And the red zone extends from the prohibited area up to 5 kilometer around the prohibited area. So it's a buffer of 5 kilometer around the prohibited area. And the prohibited area can include places like airports, it can include places like military installations, it can include places like power plants. Then after the red zone, we have yellow zone. The yellow zone is also a controlled airspace, and permission is required from ATC or relevant authorities for flying a drone here. It extends from 5 kilometer to 8 kilometer near airport areas or near restricted areas, and beyond 8 kilometer to 12 kilometer, yellow zone extends over the height of 200 feet. So within 8 kilometer to 12 kilometer of restricted areas, if you want to fly a drone, it should be within a height of 200 feet. And after the yellow zone, we have the green zone, which extends from 12 km outside the restricted areas. In the green zone, flights can take place within 400 feet above ground level, and no permission is required to fly a drone over here. Then this slide shows the drone operation of the airspace zones in India as shown on the Digital Sky platform, and it is an authoritative source for pilots to check the real-time interactive airspace map. So on this map, we can see that all the international boundaries fall under the red zone. In addition to this, we also have red zones at certain locations. These can be power plants or these can be some restricted areas. Similarly, if you zoom in this map, we can also find yellow zones which are around the airports. So there are yellow zone of 5 to 8 kilometer around the airport as we just saw, and also a yellow zone of 8 to 12 kilometer around the airport. Then with regards to drone operation, we should also be aware of the no permission, no takeoff rule. So all drones apart from the nano class, they need to be equipped with a no permission, no takeoff NPNT compliant firmware which prevents takeoff without valid permissions for the flight. So NPNT is a software program which is built onto the drone that enables every remotely piloted aircraft except the nano class to obtain valid permissions digitally through Digital Sky platform before operating. For yellow or red zone, explicit pre-flight permission is required. And the rationale behind NPNT is that it can prevent security threat by unidentified drones. It also helps enforce proper regulation of drones as they are not allowed in red zones and no-go area, and also enforces geofencing by compelling the drones to return to home if NPNT compliant drone tries to breach geofencing. With regards to drone operation, a very important rule is of right of way. All manned aircraft have absolute right of way over unmanned aircraft systems. So all drones must always give way and avoid collision paths with passenger aircraft, helicopter, and any other manned aviation activity. The drone pilot must immediately descend or alter course if a manned aircraft approaches. The drone pilot should maintain safe horizontal and vertical separation as per DGCA guidelines. And the drone pilot should never operate drones near airports, heliports, or restricted air corridors without prior permission. Violation of right of way rule is considered a serious safety breach and may result in suspension or cancellation of license. With regards to drone operation, knowledge of compliance, enforcement, and penalties is also an important information. So, drone operations must strictly follow the Drone Rules 2021 and Airspace Mapped published on the Digital Sky platform. DGCA and Ministry of Civil Aviation have the authority to inspect, audit, and monitor any drone operation or training organization. And they may suspend or cancel a UIN, a remote pilot license, or RPTO authorization for non compliance. And under the Rule 71, monetary fines up to 1 lakh can be applicable depending on the nature and severity of violation. Unauthorized operation in red or yellow zone may attract criminal prosecution, and carriage of weapons, explosive, or hazardous materials by drones is strictly prohibited. And operators are required to report any accident or loss of control within 48 hours on the Digital Sky portal. And the operators must also maintain proper flight logs and maintain the records of the drones. And with regards to the training, safety, and research and development provision, only authorized RPTOs may train the pilots. Drones must have geofencing, real-time tracking beacon, and NPNT hardware. And carrying weapons, explosive, or dangerous goods is strictly prohibited. Accidents have to be reported within 48 hours on Digital Sky platform. And there are also exemptions for research and development purposes. So no type certificate or RPL is needed for government and recognized research institute. Recognized universities and Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade approved startups do not need the type certificate. And R&D flights are allowed only within green zones or approved premises. So in summary, the drone regulations lay down a regulatory framework for the drones, operators, and operation, and they are necessary for safety, security, and privacy. And always check the latest guidelines at Digital Sky platform. And that was all for today's lecture, and thank you.